Happy New Year! Here's to an amazing 2021. I'm actually filming this just before New Year's Eve, and I'm here to tell you that it's not too late to make some New Year's resolutions. You don't have to wait until Monday. Ultimately, you don't have to wait until the beginning of the year, but don't miss the opportunity to put some small changes into place. It's the small changes done consistently over a long period of time that are going to make the difference. Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm Eva and I'll be here every Friday evening with new videos on how to build meaningful careers and inspiring workplaces. I see you looking at the subscribe button. Just hit it. It really helps. And if you also hit the bell, I'll make sure that you're the first to know about more entertainment, inspiration and practical tips. New Year's resolutions. People either love them or are absolutely terrified by them. This year, I'm not going to cut out sugar completely, cut out alcohol completely, and swear never to watch Netflix again. These are great things to aspire to, but by the time we get to the third Monday of January, which is the most depressing day of the year, this is what happens. So here's a radical idea. This year, I'm not going to make a resolution that I can't stick to long term or a resolution that I really hate. A couple of years ago, I had a fantastic New Year's resolution. It was at a time where I was spending a lot of time at work, but spending all of my free time salsa dancing, which was great, but I felt that those were the only two sides of my life. So my New Year's resolution, which I brought my friends into, was to do something every week that wasn't salsa dancing. And it was an amazing experience. I actually went to this art exhibition, I went climbing for the first time, and I also painted this painting which shows up in my videos. So I had a great year and I reckon that makes me an expert. I'm just kidding, obviously. But I have put together 5 New Year's resolutions for work that are easy to stick to and I'm fully gonna enjoy doing. What makes a resolution easy to stick to is actually saying what you intend to do and then also scheduling it, because if you don't schedule it, it doesn't happen. I'm going to go through the 5 New Year's resolutions for work and then I'm also going to say when and how I'm going to be doing them. My first New Year's resolution is to simply be more grateful. There's a lot of evidence to back up how being grateful can help you to lead a much happier life. And let's be honest, this has been a tough year. So first of all, I'm grateful to just have a job, but it's really easy to get into that pattern of complaining and just being overwhelmed by all of the work that you have to do. And I actually learned a lesson on this a couple of weeks ago. A colleague was helping me with a project at the early stages. I then completed the project, moved on with it, and never actually let that person know what the status was. And they got in touch and said that they were disappointed that they weren't kept in the loop. And I think I let myself be overwhelmed by the stress and being busy that I never took the time to thank the people that were actually working with me. The work environments we work in are so collaborative right now, so there's nothing you can really get done all by yourself. So in light of that, my New Year's resolution is to be more grateful, and here's the how and when I'm going to do it. So at the end of my workday, I'm going to take 5 minutes, the last 5 minutes of my day, to think about who has helped me today and how can I let them know and thank them for helping me. And that doesn't just have to be your colleagues, it could also be the people at home, your friends and family who are supporting you. My second New Year's resolution is to set boundaries. Somehow we've convinced ourselves that it's impossible to stop working because we're at home and we're right next to our laptops. But I'm here to tell you, it's absolutely possible and I'm going to show you how. Oh, look, it's 5:30. Bye! And there you have it. And there are a couple of reasons that you should stop working when you say you're going to stop working. Number 1, it makes you look inefficient. Why is it taking you 12 hours to do something when it takes everyone else 8 hours? People don't necessarily see that you're doing more work. Number 2, there's always going to be more work to do. There'll always be another email that you could send, another 10 minutes that you could spend perfecting your presentation. The work is never going to run out, so when are you actually going to stop? And number 3, you will burn out. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that if there's an important deadline that you need to put a few more hours in, you can absolutely do that. Or if it's a short period of time. When I was at university in the summers, I worked 9 to 5 in an office and 6 to closing in a bar. But it was a means to an end, and it was going to end so that I could get some rest. We know that most people on their deathbeds don't think that they could have spent a little bit more time working. They all regret not living a healthier lifestyle, not spending more time with their loved ones. So you should actually stop working when you say you're going to be working. It makes sure that you bring your best self and you're more efficient in the hours that you should be at work. And here's the thing with flexible working, particularly when there are people across several different time zones, we feel this need to be available all the time. Do you know how many people have actually held it in for hours because they've had back-to-back calls and haven't taken 5 minutes to go to the bathroom? So here's a crazy idea. Maybe start your meetings 5 past the hour. I know especially for me, because I'm on calls for maybe 6 to 7 hours every single day, that would be great to take a little break. So consider starting your meetings a little bit later, and just don't be that person who puts in a meeting during lunch hour. Let people just have a break and be mindful of other people's time. Here's the how and when I will set boundaries. My boundaries are, my computer goes off at 5:30 and I'm not using it for anything work related outside that time, for the most part. And 2, I will be taking a lunch break. I'll be taking some time to cook some nice lunch, go outside, even if it's just a 2-minute walk around the block, and I schedule that in my diary so that people can see I'm on a lunch break and they don't book a meeting over it. Informal boundary, lunchtime boogie. Third New Year's resolution, to build relationships at work. And this is something that I tend to do naturally. I like to be close to the people that I work with, but especially this year, especially when we're working remotely, you need to put in a little bit more of an effort. There's an important reason that socials like Christmas parties or summer parties are so important. And that is that you get to see the human side behind the people that you're working with. It's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day of just being annoyed at each other or not getting the work that you need done and just having really high expectations. But remembering that there's a human on the other side can really help you to have a much better work environment. And that brings me on to a way that you can actually build better relationships with your colleagues. And sometimes that involves asking an awkward question. I love asking awkward questions because it lets people open up a little bit more to you, and provided you've opened up yourself, it can lead to much better, much more meaningful conversations. For example, I was in a meeting doing a review with one of my colleagues and I found that they were being quite short with me, quite abrupt, didn't look like they were in a great mood, and I could have just taken that as they're annoyed with me or they're not happy about something. But instead, at the end of the meeting, I just asked, hey, how are you dealing with all of this? And I was very saddened to learn that this colleague was having a really hard time, unsurprising in such a difficult year. And I think that conversation just made both of us understand to make a little bit of space for the human side. People are not always annoyed at you. Sometimes they take it out in the wrong ways, and sometimes we all do that, and that's fine. But if you're asking someone maybe a question that's a little bit awkward, then you will eventually find out and build better relationships and better connections. Especially if there's a conversation that you know you've been putting off because you know it's going to be uncomfortable. Maybe you have to give someone feedback that's a little bit tough. You are stopping that person from the opportunity of learning and doing better and just clearing the air. So if you know there's a conversation that you've been putting off, absolutely make it your business to have it. And here's the how and when. Every Friday after lunch, I will call someone within the company just to see how they are and ask them some awkward questions. New Year's resolution number 4 is to stop whining and fix what is in my control. It's so easy to just keep complaining. It's actually much harder to stop that complaining and try and come up with better solutions. The more senior you get in your career, the more it will be important to bring solutions rather than just problems to the table. If you feel that you're not getting paid enough for the work that you do, have you asked for a pay rise? If you really hate your job, have you looked for another job elsewhere? If you're feeling really uncomfortable with one of your colleagues, have you tried having an open conversation with them? For the how and when, there are reasons to complain every day. So this one literally happens every single day. Every time that I hear myself complaining, because we hear it in our heads first before we share it with anyone else, I just imagine the complaining voice. I've called her Barbara, she has a name. And Barbara just has a really whiny voice and she's like, oh, I don't want to go to the gym, oh, I don't want to do this. That's Barbara. And the reason I've called her Barbara is because when I hear Barbara, I just think in my head, Barbara Streisand. Do, 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 do. And I just Barbara her away. So every single day I hear that voice, I hear it whining, and I just shut her up and try and come up with some better solutions. Number 5 is to take risks and commit to them for a little bit. One of the scariest realizations that I've had this year is that I haven't actually failed at anything. Of course, I've made mistakes, I've done things at work that I could have done better, but I don't feel like I've epically failed at anything. And the reason that's scary is it just makes me think I haven't taken enough risks. I obviously tend to be more on the side of staying positive, but I really want to try really, really hard at something, even if it doesn't work out. Something that's difficult and that's going to challenge me, and I'm not guaranteed that it's going to succeed. Are there any risks that you've wanted to take? Have you wanted to try running your own business or to live out one of your passions? And if you have, then spend some time actually doing that thing. I'm not saying you have to quit your day job, but it's something that you could spend the weekends doing or spend some of the evenings doing and see if it's a good fit and if you can make something out of it. It's always important to be aware that your mind will try and sabotage you and will try to trick you when you try doing something new, something important, and something different. My trick to battling that is predefining the time that I'm going to spend actually trying something, so you don't have time to chicken out and pull out from the things that you really want to be doing. If you need a little bit of help sticking to that, there's this awesome app called Stick, which was developed by behavioural economists at Yale University, and it helps you do just that, stick to your goals. Their research has found that you're much more likely to stick to a goal when you want to avoid losing something that you already have and when you're accountable to someone. So they've tapped into this psychology by letting you nominate a referee, that could be a friend, who approves whether or not you've stuck to your goals, and by betting on yourself. Now what that means is if your referee doesn't approve that you've stuck to your goals, then money can either go to a charity, so you will be losing money to that charity, or it could even go to an anti-charity if you're really brave. Now an anti-charity is what they classify as any organisation that you don't like. It could be a rival football team, it could be political organisations you don't like, and you kind of decide that for yourself. I know if I told my dad that if he didn't get into the gym 3 times a week, money would go to Arsenal Football Club, I can guarantee you he would be in there every single day. So if it's important to you, set a goal, predetermine the amount of time you're going to be doing that, get someone to make you accountable, and make sure that you're sticking to it. By the way, I'm not sponsored by Stick, I just use it myself and I think it's a great app and I think you might find it helpful. This video is part of what's keeping me accountable, so I'm making all of you my referees. I strongly believe that if people are engaged and fulfilled in their work that they do, our businesses can have a tremendous impact on the world. So my mission is to help as many people as possible build meaningful careers and inspiring workplaces. So the how and when I'm going to be doing this is that every week on Friday evening I will be putting out a new video that's talking about all things workplace and career. If you found any of this useful, I would be so grateful if you would please like this video and subscribe. It helps to keep me motivated and accountable and working towards my goals, and I really hope that you achieve all the resolutions that you've set for 2021. Thanks so much for watching.